Today we're sitting here in Riverside, California at the Riverside Raceway for something a little bit different, taking a look here at one of the classic cars in Grand Prix Legends, the RA300. Now, the RA300 was Honda's 1967 spec car. It was actually one that only raced in the final 3 races of the season, starting at the Italian Grand Prix, and actually raced the first race of '68 at the South African Grand Prix. So 4 races total in the history of the car, which is a very short career as far as cars go. But one of the most interesting things, or probably the interesting thing about this car, is that it won its first Grand Prix. And not only did it win its first Grand Prix, but it led only 1 lap, the last lap of that Grand Prix. And that was that 1967 Italian Grand Prix at Monza. John Surtees having won, crossing the line, passing, I think, Jim Clark and Jack Brabham on the final lap of the race. In quite dramatic fashion. One of the classic races, I think, kind of forgotten in recent memory, but was one of the close F1 races in the early days where a lot of these races were really spaced out, laps between drivers and everything. This one actually had two cars coming to the finish line side by side with Jack Brabham and John Surtees, and Surtees pulling out the win for this RA300. So this car, why choose this one? It is one of the slower cars in Grand Prix Legends, absolutely. Looking at, things like the Ferrari and the Eagle and the Brabham and obviously the Lotus, the Honda is at the bottom of that list, but there's a few good reasons why this is an awesome car, and one of them is this noise. Nice V12 engine. The RA30 had the same V12 that the predecessor to this car had in it, which was the V12, I think 48 valve, 400 horsepower behemoth of an engine. F1 redid its rules in 1966, allowing for 3-liter cars, and this was Honda's answer for that, was this big V12. So why don't we get moving while we still talk about this here. We'll roll out of the pits with the glorious sound behind us. Honda competed most of the 1967 season with their 66 car, which was the Honda 273. And the Honda 273 had this same exact engine in it, but was way heavier. I think they say double the weight the chassis was over the RA300. So when Honda went out to produce the RA300, they were looking to reduce the weight as much as possible, and what they actually did was hire Eric Broadley of Lola Cars to produce it for them. So Eric Broadley is the man behind Lola, and had just won the Indy 500 in 1966 with Graham Hill driving the Lola T90. So he essentially took the T90, adapted it so it could fit the behemoth V12 engine that Honda had, and voila, you end up with this car, the RA300. Now, the car itself still has some quirks to it, and although it won its first Grand Prix and was genuinely competitive, that competitiveness didn't stick around, and by the end of '67 and I guess the start of '68, Honda was on to the next thing with the RA301, which is essentially the 300 just with some wings and aero bits on it. Honestly, Honda was kind of done with this car by then. They were testing their RA302, which was a completely different car, I think different chassis and everything, but ended up being a very ill-fated attempt at a Grand Prix car, resulting in an accident at the French Grand Prix that killed Joe Schessler, the French Grand Prix driver. John Surtees actually refusing to drive that car for good reason, it turns out. Kind of a tragic story in itself. So, for all intents and purposes, this was really the last competitive, somewhat competitive Honda F1 car until more recently, I think 2006 or 2005, when Honda took over British American Racing. So this car was one of the original 7 that was included with Grand Prix Legends. alongside the Ferrari and the Lotus and all the other ones that you've come to love. This one actually, if you booted up Grand Prix Legends and wondered where is the Honda RA300, it's actually hidden behind a fake name, the Murasama, which I believe is actually the name of a person at Honda, but Papyrus at the time of creating Grand Prix Legends didn't have the license for Honda, so they created a fake team, but it is the RA300 and brought back in glorious detail here with all these awesome texture and modeling updates that you're seeing here. So what I'm actually going to do here is a couple of laps, get things heated up, and then we'll try to do a flyer. And my hope is that eventually maybe I'll do a few more of these with different cars and we can see how things stack up against one another. Rolling through turn 9 here at Riverside, about to start our flying lap in the Honda RA300. Coming now down the front straightaway and across the line, up into 5th gear before the hump through turn 1. The V12 singing behind this car. And now we'll prepare it for the S's, down into 4th, hammer down. The car really just wants to pull into a straight line whenever you get onto that gas, but 3rd over the hump. Now through the S's, getting close to the top of the rev range there. Now 2nd and 1st, so we get through turn 6. And tidy through there, but now we'll get on the gas and head up and down the hills here into turn 7, where again, down all the way to 1st gear to get this lumbering beast here through the corner. Wait for it. Now down on the gas as we exit through 3rd gear, 4th gear to the most challenging turn on the circuit into 3rd. Let the car fly almost off the edge of the world, it feels like. Down into 1st, oh, sliding a little wide there. But now get the power down and do what this beast does best. Down the straightaway here towards the dogleg. Up through 4th gear now. And 5th gear, so we'll head down the hill, bottoming out. And flat out through the dogleg. Flicking the car to the left, now spotting our braking zone for 3 here. Down into 3rd gear. Let the car roll. Sliding up wide, but gonna make this work as we'll pull the car down on the exit of the turn here, now towards the line. And across, completing the lap in the RA300 here. So the RA300 is one of the more beautiful cars in my eye from this era Grand Prix racing. Right before all the aero bits and everything started getting onto the cars, this one really just gives you that pure raw power and the sleek lines. I love white cars and how clean they look, and it checks all those boxes for me. And I think as a young American, having seen movies like Grand Prix where the main character drives in Honda as part of that film, this was just a car that really interested me. And although it's not the quickest car in Grand Prix Legends by far, especially in twisty bits, it's just a great one to drive and have fun with. So I challenge everybody out there to go tackle this behemoth, the Hondola as it was affectionately called. Remember, this is a car with tons of history, having won its first Grand Prix, only leading 1 lap in the entire car's lifespan, and having that result in a win on the final lap of the Grand Prix. That's super exciting. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Something a little different, but like I said, maybe want to do more of these if get a good reception from this. So we'll see what happens next, but I'll catch you all again next time.